Welcome back to Pokemon Platinum. We're going to be really starting the winter route proper, which means your screen's going to become kind of a mess when we get close to the top.
Uh,
Sorry to say.
Yay?
it's yeah, I'm already seeing like artifacting in the videos from all the white. So
I mean,
Yeah.
that will happen with any DS game because,
yeah, I
DS,
know. I mean,
but-
you're already blowing up a low res video, but the result of that is a video that really hates compression because it already looks compressed. So then you compress it, and it looks double compressed. And ugh.
I
Man.
also recorded these like 3 years ago.
Yeah. And watching this just makes me want to actually play Pokemon White version, though.
So,
Oh, Gen 5 looks so much better than Gen 4.
Yeah.
It's astounding.
I was just
Yeah.
watching John's review of Gen 5 today, and it looks really, really interesting when you get into the later areas and the environments are more complex. It
Yeah.
actually does that thing that I was ranting about in earlier parts. That is the entire point of doing a goddamn hybrid 3D environment 2D sprite game, and I'm so happy to see it happen. Although, to be fair, this place does do some interesting things with that concept in the like endgame areas, like when you're in a weird alternate dimension and it's doing like Sonic Adventure 2 bullshit with like environment angles and stuff. So
the Dimension World's okay. It's pretty, we'll talk about it when we...
It's boring.
I just mean visually, it's a visually interesting thing to do with the graphics.
Yeah,
But-
it's nice that it's actually 3D, I guess is the thing, but we'll get to it when we
Yeah,
get to it.
it's just Game Freak has this weird cycle where they make they make a jump in graphical quality in a generation where they do nothing with that jump in graphical quality, and you have to wait until the next generation to see them do things with that jump in graphical quality.
Yep.
Yeah, that's... it's amazing how much better Sun and Moon look than
Then X
than
and Y.
X and Y. Yeah, it's astounding because honestly, it's X and Y pretty much just look like the...
They look like 2 steps away from being productions of RPG Maker 2 on the PS2. And I do not say that lightly because RPG Maker 2 is an ugly ass piece of shit. Yeah. So wow.
Yeah.
Nostalgia.
RPG Maker is one of those things that I wish I could get into because it's a surprisingly robust engine. But it's just also one of those
Well-
things that takes way more work than you would really, really want in order to make something,
I've
good.
seen some really impressive stuff done in RPG Maker, and like in the PC versions in particular, if you know how to code in the language that the engine uses, which I think is Ruby or something, you can like break outside the boundaries of the prefab engine and do some really impressive stuff with animations and stuff. And I wish more people would make actual RPGs with RPG Maker because everyone seems to be making mystery puzzle games with it, and it's like, wow, way to tap into the potential and then not use it, huh?
At the very least, the game is nice enough to put a rest house right here.
Yeah. Well, it's like in any kind of like really wild environment that you're expected to travel through, the natural thing to do, both from game design standpoint and for like realistic world design, is rest houses in the middle of it. The Thunder Plains in Final Fantasy X had that going on. In fact, a lot of
they
places
did?
in Final Fantasy X had that going on. Where, like, yeah, there's this, like, chain franchise of Albed inns that was always, like, perched in the middle of the long-ass wilderness areas so that people could stop and stay there while they're traveling from place to place.
Huh.
It was charming because they actually had a character attached to it who recurred throughout the series and would end up on your airship toward the end.
Welcome to ye old fantastical Motel 6.
Yeah. I mean, like...
Isn't
people-
the Thunder Plains the place that everybody hates because you have to dodge 50,000 lightning bolts or
people
whatever?
don't necessarily hate the Thunder Plains when you're just passing through it, but when you're going back late game in order to get the item you need for the final weapon, not even the final weapon itself, but the item you need for the final weapon, because you need the weapon and 2 items, and then you need to go to a place to activate the weapon. It's convoluted as hell. But like you need to play a bunch of mini games for a lot of the items, and the one you need to play for I forget which one, Riku or Lulu or someone like that, is you dodge like 200 consecutive lightning bolts, I think. Jesus Christ.
I've definitely heard people complain about that in terms of Final Fantasy
It's the most frustrating thing in Final Fantasy since actually trying to play the jump rope minigame. But the jump rope minigame isn't mandatory for any major thing. It's just a minigame that you can play in the town in a few specific parts because they wanted to include a few cute girls with a jump rope minigame. Why not? But in Final Fantasy X, you need to do that stuff for completion. It's like at that point it actually takes less time and less frustration to just craft a weapon yourself that has the damage break ability, because that's the main draw of the ultimate weapons in 10 is breaking the 9,999 limit on damage so that you can just destroy everything.
You went from 9,999 to 12 million.
Yeah, because if you don't craft a weapon that has that ability, which is hard to do, or get the ultimate weapons, which is hard to do, the only way to break the damage limit is to get anima, which is hard to do. Anima, for some bizarre as fuck reason, is like I think the only one of 2 summons in Final Fantasy X that naturally breaks the damage limit on its own, and it's so badass and powerful that you might as well not bother with its overdrives or its special abilities or anything. Just use its normal attack. It's going to destroy everything. Jesus.
I remember that being a big. Oh yeah, I forgot how bad it got. I mean, granted, it's accurate because as someone who lives in New England, trying to drive in the snow is the worst. It's legitimately terrifying.
Try to drive during a snowstorm at night. Light speed, ho.
It's a little hard to pull this off in this kind of limited graphical fidelity, but areas like this can be legitimately good in other games. Like I have very very stark memories of just traveling straight down this steep snowy mountainside rather, in Xenoblade Chronicles, and that area gave me like literal chills down my spine to go with the snow. I liked that environment quite a lot. It made me feel nervous, even though there weren't actually any like gameplay elements that
you know what?
From the
I remember that area, and I agree. That was like it was actually scary to like walk around.
The environments in Xenoblade 1 were so effective, like whether at inducing a mood or just a feeling of epicness. It really did its job, and that's impressive because to make a game on the Wii that was that open, they had to downgrade a lot of graphical elements to make it happen. And oh god.
Yeah, Xenoblade 1 is a game that I really should finish one of these days because I got only 40 hours in and then had to,
only.
Yeah, and then I had to turn it off because I got distracted.
Out of context, that sounds like such a weird thing to say because 40 hours is like the length of your standard Final Fantasy. But as having played it, I get it because you can play for any number of hours in that game and be doing actual stuff the entire time and still not make it very far through the story.
No, you can.
Okay, let's put it this way. Emil has over 100 episodes of 20-plus minute parts in his playthrough, and he knew exactly what he was doing at all times.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah, it's a long ass game. I think for people, I think I got to like the halfway point because I finally got that character. If you played the game, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Spoiler character.
9.
Yeah, getting that character meant, I need to go and do all of their like extra stuff. I want to get their heart-to-hearts and stuff, and I was doing backup, like, I just wanted to catch up on all that stuff because I'd skipped a lot of it. And then I turned the game off with every intention of going back, and I just didn't. That happens sometimes.
That's pretty much exactly what happened to me, and it's around that point where I stopped too. But I didn't go back to it myself because I got the Wii U version, which just, is a better experience in general. So I say Wii U version, I mean the Wii digital version. And
the Wii U download of the Wii game without the disc. Basically, is what you mean. Okay.
And
I love that because if you download the game if you download a game, and let's say that you had already had it on disc on your Wii, and transferred it over to the Wii U, it'll actually keep the save data that you played on disc, which is really, really neat. I don't know. Sorry, I interrupted. Continue.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to start over on that for some reason because I've been away from it for so long, I think, and I never got around to doing it.
Yeah, but that's such a dangerous mentality with a game like Xenoblade, though.
It's just, yeah, I don't remember what was going on. I've lost my thread again.
Tales of Symphonia, I did that too. That's why I'm trying very hard to try to not do that, especially with RPGs, because I can't just start another RPG over. I've done it too many times. It's like,
Yeah.
no, I gotta, if I'm playing an RPG, I need to either get far enough so that, like, I need to either play enough that I've decided that I don't want to play anymore, or just finish it, you know?
Yeah.
Which I think are two different things, because if you've played enough of a game and don't like it to the point where you just don't want to play anymore, that's different from, you know, like starting something and being like, oh, I'll finish it later, and then never finish
It's just,
it.
I need to have the memories of the adventure fresh in my head, otherwise I lose a lot of the impact of stuff that happens later on. You know? It's like, I remember there was this bit of drama that they were setting up with the bad guy and the fiancée of one of the characters, and it looked like it was going to be some really chilling and dark stuff. I'm like, oh man, I almost don't want to play to the point where that happens because it's going to be sad, and I don't remember much about the characters involved anymore, so if I get to that point now, I won't feel the feels.
I also just straight up don't remember how to play the game anymore. Like, I'll probably be trying to beat, like, mid-level enemies, and I'll be like, what do I do? How do I play video games? And, I mean, I'm like that normally anyway, so I guess it's not really that different, but it's, you know, especially for... Xenoblade's a pretty complex game, all things considered. The mechanics are pretty, like, I mean, not that it's hard to understand, but it's not an easy game from what I remember. So it's not something that I want to just I don't want to try to jump into mid-game and not know what I'm doing, you know?
It's also like, I haven't finished Xenoblade X either. For much of the same reasons, I played hours upon hours upon hours of it and never finished. And if I get back in, I just know I'm going to forget what all the characters are, especially in Xenoblade X, because the story is pretty thinly spread in Xenoblade X. It's more about the open world in that game. And it's like, okay, people want me to give Xenoblade Chronicles 2 a chance, even if I were to get past the reservations I have about how generic the art style is, and the different gameplay, and the overly cluttered user interface and everything. I still have these two, like, much more interesting to me games that I have yet to finish. So, if I'm gonna play Xenoblade, it's gonna be one of those two. You know?
It's Xenoblade X is still, like, I think one of the 4 games that if you want to play, you need to just have a Wii U in order to play it.
They haven't released a Switch version or anything for it yet.
How much does the gamepad matter in that in X? Would you really?
There's some stuff with the maps, with the mapping system and all that you can do on the gamepad, and I imagine switching to a pause screen for all of it would probably make things a bit clunkier. But at the same time, not a whole lot. Apart from that.
I mean, yeah, you know, they probably could have. It probably, when I'm thinking of games that would make the Switch pretty easily, that one's kind of one that comes to mind. Honestly, most of the ones that are left would transfer over pretty easily. Like Pikmin 3, okay, just have it be a pause screen instead of I mean, you would lose like having the big mini map, but you know, it's not that.
The areas aren't that big.
From what I can tell, I remember hearing that Tokyo Mirage Sessions does some cool stuff with it, with the 2 screens, but I don't remember hearing that it does anything like necessary. So I feel like that would probably make the Switch alright. It's really just like Wonderful 101 and Star Fox Zero, but even then, I feel like most people
I think you'd have a harder time porting certain Wii games to the Switch than anything that was made for the Wii U, because like Wii games used the pointer a lot, and that's not something that the Switch has a direct analog to.
Yeah, Trauma Center's dead. we're never getting another one because they're not without those IR controls. It's a waste of time to try to
Or a
make.
touchscreen or something. Well,
Yeah.
it has a touchscreen, but it's not the main point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
the other thing is like you have a touchscreen when you're playing portable, but only when you're playing portable. If you're playing docked, and most games on the Switch need to be designed with docked in mind because that's the whole point of the system is you can switch easily between two modes, you know, because it's the Switch. So if it can't be played in docked, it's probably not worth designing for the system.
Yeah, I mean, people are already complaining about with Mario Maker 2 how bad the control options are when making a stage in docked, to the point where most people say if you're making stages, just undock it and get a touchscreen stylus.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess I did play a little bit with it. Using the fingers fine, but
I mean, even at least in dock, it works.
it works, but it's super clunky. Like,
Yeah.
I tried.
It's
and
almost like trying to play RPG Maker on a console. Nostalgia. I spent so much time with the PS1 RPG Maker.
Did you have a memory card entirely dedicated to it?
No, I didn't have an extra memory card. I just spent time fiddling around with the Game Maker, not actually making anything. Back then, if you wanted to make a game, you needed multiple memory cards. The game, if you wanted to make any kind of long RPG, you needed, one memory card for your environments. They all had to fit on one memory card because there was no way to switch memory cards mid-game for that. And then you would have a second memory card for events. Basically, anything that involves programming things into the game is an event data.
So wait, so you'd have to swap memory cards in order for different parts of the game to load up?
You would
like swapping discs.
Yeah, you would swap memory cards like discs, and then if you wanted to share them, you would have to get the Dex drive. Does anyone remember the Dex drive?
Oh my god. That sounds like the most 90s thing I've ever heard of in my entire life.
The Dex drive, I think it's called the Dex drive anyway, was this device that you could hook up to your computer to extract memory card data and share it on the then fledgling internet. So you could share your RPG Maker creations on PS1, but only with people who also had Dex drives and multiple memory cards.
Oh my god. There's probably like a super obscure but super passionate group of like 15 people who have made amazing games. With
there
that.
are. In fact, the RPG Maker itself comes with a sample game that is on its own merits a pretty damn good game called Gobbly, where you play as a random goblin who fights the hero in random battles but wants to be a hero himself. So you go on a quest with a hole in the wall named Mark. And the hole in the wall is a character because the actual graphic they use for holes in walls is a Shadow Man, which can also double as a monster or a mysterious figure or something. So the hole in the wall named Mark and the cat named Neko join your party, and you go on an adventure with them. It's only a few hours long, but as a good, it's worth playing. You know?
Oh my god. Like, I love seeing how impressive fan-made content can be. Is just amazing. Like, I'm playing through Dragon Quest Builders 2 right now, and the game lets you visit the building creations that other people made. And some of the stuff people have made are so intense that not only do they send the Switch It version's frame rate down to single digits, but if you're playing on PS4 Pro, it sends the frame rate down to like 15.
What game are we talking about now?
Dragon Quest Builders 2.
Oh.
So the people have built ridiculously intricate stuff in that. And I mean, granted, if you're talking about Minecraft, people have made it so that you can play Pokemon Red and Blue in Minecraft.
What?
Yeah, people have built a working computer in Minecraft that can run a ROM of Pokemon Red or Blue. I don't know how. There's probably a video explaining the tech how, but when I watch it, my brain will probably begin to melt.
So they're basically doing that thing the Yakuza and Shenmue games do, where there's an arcade machine somewhere in the world that you can play an actual game on.
Yeah, but
in Minecraft they built the computer in which to run the game in the first place.
Yeah, they used items in the game in order to make a literal computer in order to do it. It's nuts.
That's like, wow.
Yeah, people get dedicated with user-made stuff. Like, I think there was
It's like Dr. Stone before Dr. Stone.
It was Mario Maker 2. I think somebody made a functioning calculator, and it took I think because in order to get the thing to compute, they had to use moving Koopa shells and stuff like that. So it took 45 seconds for it to do something like 2 plus 7. You know,
Wait.
but it's still impressive that it can work.
So what they did was a really complex Koopa-powered abacus.
Yes.
Pretty much, yeah. It's insane. It's insane what people can make, and I'm hella impressed that they find out a way to do that. Because I give up
Man.
on stuff after 30 minutes if it's too hard. So
Now imagine if we
dedication
applied this
astounds
brain
me.
power to like solving the problem of world peace.
Yeah, but can you make world peace in Super Mario Maker? I don't think so. That's not
Yeah,
going to
you
get
can.
YouTube clip.
It's just an
clicks.
enemy without. It's just a level without enemies, or maybe it's a level where you can talk to the enemies, Undertale style.
If
Eh?
Undertale had a modding community, they probably would have made a one where you can make world peace.
If Undertale had a modding community, oh man.
Okay, it probably
Oh
does
god.
have a modding computer.
It has
community.
one hell of a modding community. Man. Yeah, I mean.
Oh,
I
that
think,
game was
like,
also made in RPG Maker, though, right? It makes sense.
Game
'cause-
Maker, I think.
Game
Maker.
Maker. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Well, I
It
mean,
is totally different. Different company, different. It's meant for like more general purposes, but it's also in general very limited. So it's impressive that they did what they did in Game Maker.
Well, I guess that also means that since it's done using like an open source. Well, I don't
Yeah.
think it's
But,
technically
like,
open source. but...
for Game Maker, for context, Game Maker is that system that all the crappy Sonic the Hedgehog Flash games back in the day were made on. Did I say Flash games? I'm sorry. The fan games, like you would have like a really badly drawn MS Paint looking Sonic platformer that was clunky as hell, and had like a story based on SatAM or whatever. Those kind of games. Yeah, I'm making you feel old just reminding you about the shit.
Mid
aren't I?
2000s Sonic Flash games on Newgrounds. Oh man, that was a time to be alive.
This was back when like websites always had Sonic the Hedgehog or Final Fantasy MIDI files playing in the background.
Dude, I remember when I was into Neopets, you could like set up your own store and stuff. It took me it took me 2 hours to find a MIDI file for a song from Paper Mario and to figure out how to get it to play in my Neopets shop. But when I did, I felt like I was such a hacker because I had to learn and use basic HTML programming. It was like something really simple like play song when store opens or something like that. But I felt like I was a genius when I figured it out.
Yeah.
Because I asked my dad to help me, and he had like a big old book on HTML because that was part of his work. And it was just like here, and it was just like, oh my god, I'm gonna be a genius. Oh man.
I should learn HTML one of these days. I keep meaning to, but I never have the time.
Computers, like actual programming scares me because I try to follow and I just feel like and it's not usually very often.
It just never clicked for me.
Yeah, I never really felt like I had too much of a problem understanding most things in school. At least the general concepts, you know.
I
But
don't.
computers, I'm just like everything goes over my head super.
I don't
quickly.
have a bad head for programming. The 1 or 2 times where I actually like sat down in a class to work on some kind of scripting, I followed it pretty well. It's just I never had the time to really pursue it.
Trying
Yeah.
to do something complicated also.
Also,
like, the
ITT
more you
Tech
wanna-
was a train wreck of bad schooling. So, like, the class where they were supposed to be teaching you Linux was like, here, have a workbook, copy your stuff out of the workbook and follow the steps, because the teacher, like, plainly did not know Linux and was a Windows teacher.
Oh, jeez. That's like everything people hate about American schooling.
Yeah,
Like, in a nutshell.
You know, it's probably a sign of how like natural I am at computers that I learned anything about Linux from that class, because I didn't need a teacher to walk me through it at all. I just followed the workbook and I picked it all up fine. And I still remember it to this day and apply it because we use Linux at work.
Oh, nice. At least you can say you did something, you learned something at college that's useful. know.
And maybe one day I'll have a Linux computer with the actual freedom to use the command line. But you know, it's not useless to learn about Linux, because if you're using an Android phone, hey, you've got Linux in your pocket. If you like crack that phone and give yourself admin position privileges, you can you can use the Linux command line for stuff, so it helps to know that kind of thing.
As far as I can tell, it's relatively easy to hack Androids because they're just normal
It depends.
computers.
It depends. Like
Depends, okay.
if you have a phone manufactured by Verizon or some other companies that are really strict, then like unless you have like a certain older version of the firmware, it's the same deal with cracking consoles. Like you need an older version of the firmware that hasn't had exploits patched out, and if you don't have that older version, you're fucked. Like I can't crack my Galaxy S5 to install a newer version of Android because it's made by Verizon and they don't let you do that. But I can't update my phone anymore because the current version of Android isn't supported. So I'm stuck with a phone that will forever be insecure. And that's...
Oh man, you know what? You just need to give it a good pep talk, and then it'll start feeling good about itself.
Yeah,
You know?
it's just like I don't want to do anything personal on my phone anymore because it's not going to... I can't get security updates for it anymore because Verizon is such a stickler for not letting you get admin privileges on your phone. It's like, if I have the savvy to get admin privileges on my Android phone, I can deal with the consequences, okay? Let me just do what I want with my device. I feel like I've had this argument with Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft for years, but, yeah.
I feel like with game, I mean, we're at the end of the part. I feel like with game developers specifically, they're just trying to keep you from playing pirated games, which I suppose makes a little bit more sense than if it's a hardware for like a specific, like just, you know, a regular plain old device where it's just like, okay, if I buy a computer, I should be able to do what I want with the computer.
Yeah.
Where I don't know, it's complicated. I don't know entirely how I feel about it, so I'm gonna stop before I admit that I don't know. I thought that 9/11 was an inside job or something. I mean, what?